one occasion, René Daumal, some of you may know his name, wrote, in my judgment, one of the very extraordinary books called Mount Analog. French writer, it was written in French, but it's translated into English. He was asked, do you know what the top of the mountain is? He said, yes, I know, but I don't know. This morning I read to you from the Nasadiya Sukta, Ko Anga Veda, Yadi Vena Veda. Maybe it knows, not maybe, it knows and it knows not. The great mystery about our own purpose or the purpose of the cosmos can never be known in the sense that I can now mention it to somebody else, give it to somebody else. But one knows and knows not. But who is it that knows? In that particular remark from the Rig Veda, it is actually the seer in the highest heaven, Vyom. Vyomant. Vyom means sky or heaven. The highest seer. So within oneself, one tries to discover what is my highest seer. Now, don't dismiss the possibility that in a year from now, you would realize that what you thought was your highest seer is just the lower Himalayas. No, but you remember the example I gave the other day, if you go on. But at present, this is the highest seer in me. Knowing is essentially a feeling resonance to something. That is one kind of knowing. Actually, I believe this morning I quoted from Pascal, heart has reasons that reason does not know. Hardly a dismissible mathematics. We actually measure pressure, so many pascals. This is the guy I'm talking about. So we forget, partly because what has happened, actually both in science as well as in philosophy or even in ordinary life, most of our feelings or emotions are usually very low level. Anxiety, worry, jealousy, anger. But everywhere the suggestion, and therefore very strong idea, don't rely on that. That's just subjective, that's just personal. But in the spiritual teaching programs, heart is said to be really almost the starting point. In fact, since yesterday I ended up being seconded by our Christian priests here to speak to them, and afterwards one of them, because I made this remark about mystical Christians, so the MC there felt obliged to say that we also have mystical texts. He mentioned the Philokalia. So in fact, I also reminded him that was translated in English by the author of Mary Poppins, Pamela Travers, who was very much involved in the Gurdjieff teaching, and Uspensky's secretary, that the two of them actually translated the Philokalia. People don't imagine what our interests are. But in any case, in that, one of their very great sage, this was not the talk yesterday, but he actually specifically mentioned this, that until the heart and the mind are together, Christ cannot speak to you. He, of course, uses the language of Christ speaking, but we could say the Buddha doesn't speak to us, or Krishna. Don't get attached to the words, but it's a reminder again and again. So, what sort of resonates in my heart when I raise a question like this, in quiet, or go for a walk in the woods, or particularly whenever I am in the presence of something which has a natural vastness, such as watching an ocean or a sky or the stars. It actually takes us away from our smallness. It's a reminder of the vastness. It's always a very useful idea to take a few minutes to just look at the sky. And then sometimes something just speaks to us. I wish to write poetry, or I wish to do physics, or make music, or even search for what I am. And that is the purpose of my life. Now, what is also true, now this is both from a practical point of view, something is there in each one of us wishing to undertake something, to manifest something, but then there are all the social forces. Some of them encourage it, some hinder it. I occasionally take this example. You can guarantee there is no possibility that people of the quality of Einstein or Newton cannot exist in Syria. But if there is bombing going on there, how can they come to any physics? So external forces are always playing their part. Then there is another thing. External forces may even be helpful, but they have a form in which they help. If I am musically oriented in India, find great music teachers, it's likely that it will be the Indian music in which I have to express this. If I happen to be in Germany, it is likely that it will be Western music authorities that can assist me. So one has to see there are many forces that enter. Something is coming from deep within myself, but then there are many external forces. My environment, sometimes we call it, oh, so-and-so was lucky or so-and-so was unlucky. Maybe that's one way of putting up with something, but actually there are many forces that play here. For me, for example, very simple question I raise about myself. I was born in India, then wishing to be in India, finishing my PhD, coming back in India, but somehow the circumstances so arranged, I don't get any proper job here, so I end up going back into the Western world. So I actually ask myself, is this my decision, or is there a requirement that I somehow bring some sensitivity from the Indian tradition and from the Western tradition? I don't know this, but forces seem to be asking for me to do it. So similarly, but when I actually resented the idea that I couldn't find a job in India. Karma phala tyag. I had to finally give up. So I went to Canada as an immigrant. Then earlier I was there only as a student, and I came back to India, actually feeling rather nationalistic, wishing to serve Mother India. You people don't really know. Immediately after the independence, there was a whole urge and a thrust. And I remember Nehru saying about, actually when the Institute of Technology was opened in Kharagpur, he gave the opening address there. These institutes of technology are the temples of New India. There was a great urge for this, that we needed to assist India, and technology was supposed to be the one big deal because we were behind all the Western countries, etc. So in any case, at any given time, but I was feeling very, very nationalistic. I wanted to do this. But nobody was giving me a job here.